have other.
My name is Zev Yorman. I'm a community activist in the Brighton Beach section of Brooklyn, New York. And I've come here to talk to you today about an organization called the Brighton Neighborhood Association in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, New York, led by the president, whose name is Pat Murphy Singer, also known as Pat Singer, who has abused the neighborhood preservation grants given by DHCR to destroy our community and the various facilities within it. And I'd like to start with first of all, I've given everybody numerous newspaper articles that have appeared in the Brooklyn papers concerning this organization and the various nefarious doings and individuals that have been involved in it. Specifically, there was a man who the media refers to as a notorious slumlord and a vicious racist, and his name is Sam Shpelfogel. For approximately 15 years, the past 15 years, he was the vice president of the Brighton Neighborhood Association, and he was actually the one who signed for the grants that a DHCR gave. And he had numerous slum buildings with numerous violations within a few blocks radius of the Brighton Neighborhood Association. His tenants would call DHCR and say, who can we go to get help? His tenants would go to the Brighton Neighborhood Association, and lo and behold, Sam Shpelfogel, their landlord, would be there, and these people would get no help. Pat Murphy Singer wouldn't go to see these tenants and refused to help them as well, because this was a controlling interest in the organization. And after a big media blitz, this man was, quote, forced to resign, but he still holds a controlling interest in the organization. Now, this is not the only thing that the Brighton Neighborhood Association has done to the detriment of the community. Whenever there's a development project, a luxury development project, that the people in the community are against because it'll destroy sections of the neighborhood or the vibrancy of the neighborhood or the character of the neighborhood, Pat Murphy Singer is there on behalf of the developer against the demonstrating residents of the community. There was recently an incident on 200 Corbin Place where a developer, and we later found out this developer was the vice president of the Brighton Neighborhood Association. His name is Sam Shpelfogel. He knocked down a synagogue, which was used for a community services and different social things in the community, and he decided to build a 9-story building, thus blocking out the neighboring buildings, co-op building, their only windows. So these people, their windows are going to be blocked out. They went to Pat Singer. She had a meeting, and she said, there's nothing I can do about it. And she was concealing the fact that her own vice president was the person who was building this building. There was another building, I believe it was on Brighton 3rd Street, by the name of Gooperman, and he was building a big building there. The residents complained about it, and Pat Murphy Singer said, oh, we need this building. It shows the vibrancy of our community. When we've gone to court against our landlords for violations, stuff like, Pat Murphy Singer has been there in court on behalf of the landlord, stating, I'm here to support the landlord. Of course, one particular landlord I found out gave a nice big donation to Pat Murphy Singer. Now, I've given copies of all the newspaper articles so you can see this. Now, there's a long history of this with the Brighton Neighborhood Association. Years ago, there was a place called the Brighton Baths, which was a big cultural area in Brighton Beach. It was zoned for shore support and recreation, and the city commission lists Pat Singer as president of the Brighton Neighborhood Association as one of the reasons they decided to rezone it to allow 6 or 7 big 20-story luxury buildings. Also, the Brighton Neighborhood Association has taken part in the physical destruction of synagogues in my neighborhood, which were used for homeless for homeless services and to feed the hungry. And once again, Pat Murphy Singer went to the Board of Standards and Appeals and said, we don't need a synagogue, we need an office building there. And the synagogue was bulldozed. What we didn't find out until much later when I finally got the records was that her vice president, Sam Shpelfogel, was the man who destroyed that synagogue, and he was also the one who destroyed the other synagogue, which was used to build a 9-story building blocking those tenants. The other thing involved is that when I was growing up in Brighton Beach many years ago in the 80s, it was an integrated community. About 65% Jewish Americans, and the rest was African Americans. About 35 to 40% African Americans, and they lived there, working class, and they worked in all the stores. Right now, African Americans are not allowed to rent, are not homes, are not apartments, are not allowed to own homes, will not receive any kind of work in Brighton Beach except for the multinationals, which are just a few, maybe Dwayne Reed, Walgreen. There are over 400 businesses there, which Pat Murphy-Singer in her grant proposal says she has a connection with, and she has all kinds of relationships with to influence them. Blacks cannot get jobs in Brighton Beach, which is right next to Coney Island, which is an African-American community with 50% unemployment. Blacks cannot rent, they cannot own businesses there, and they cannot rent businesses there. And this is the organization called the Brighton Neighborhood Association, which is getting your grant. And
so I think you've spoken for 4 minutes, but I don't give grants out. You know, I wish I did. I don't have that capacity. I'm not wealthy enough. You mean the state of New York?
I mean the state of New York, but you,
yeah.
I mean, representing the state of New York,
yes.
Department of Housing and Community Renewal.
I'm sure the fact that you've been very diligent in putting together your position, and the fact that you're very adamant about your concerns about this organization, that DHCR knows about it already.
But the agency is not doing anything about it because it's all politics.
Yeah.
Everything is politics.
Can I ask you something?
Please.
If you have an organization that is hurt and closing down synagogues, that you have an organization that is massively displacing blacks, you know, I would think, I don't even know how you would survive, you know, a month or two. You know, so the Jewish religious leaders there say, fine, tear down synagogues, and the African Americans there say, great, just don't allow us to live any place around here. I would assume there's a lot of support for your position.
First of all, the Jewish community has protested. The African American community is a little bit, they've organized a little bit on this respect, but not that much. But as you'll see by all these newspaper articles here, and if you'll go to a website called BrightonNeighborhoodassociation.com, right, you'll see the many demonstrations that the Jewish community has had about the destruction of synagogues by members of the Brighton Neighborhood Association.
The local legislators, I'm sure, are very concerned. If the public is against the organization, you know, I mean, is Alec Procrasny the assembly person covering
the person covering most of this area is Stephen Simbrowitz. Right. Stephen Simbrowitz gets his, last I checked, his donations from developers who are outside the community, inside the community, and that's what he's concerned with. Stephen Simbrowitz gets the donations, he then gives the grant, he then makes sure the grants go to the Brighton Neighborhood Association.
Let me raise something. You know, I've given you a lot of latitude. I'm not going to participate in character assassination.
You asked a question about my assemblyman.
I understand that. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to.
We tried for months to meet with Assemblyman Stephen Simbrowitz. We tried for months. I called him every week. We called every week to meet with him. He refused to meet with us. We eventually had a demonstration outside his door, and it was well covered in the media, and he locked the door on us. He refused to even talk with us. I'll have to say Michael Nelson, the councilman, did meet with us.
Good.
Okay.
So one,
Stephen Simbrowitz refused to meet with us.
You conveyed your concern about this organization, you know, you know, and I'm sure you're quite vocal, and you're going to stay on top of the issue. You know,
I am on top of the issue. I just wish our government was on top of the issue and stopped wasting money on this organization, which could be used for put to better use.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a legitimate, on your part, a legitimate concern.
And a part, if you'll see these newspaper articles, a legitimate concern of many of the residents of Brighton Beach,
okay,
who have actively protested this. Who ever heard of residents protesting against a neighborhood organization? Here you have residents protesting constantly.
Okay. All right. You conveyed that point.
This is from the Daily News. I mean, 5 or 6 different newspapers here, all respected.
All right. Thank you.
I thank you for your time, Assemblyman.
Yes, thank you for coming all the way here. The next speaker is Hill.